trust fund, 10,000 acres, or the perfect plan to start a ranch? Just ask Gary Price. He began 77 ranches with nothing more than a work ethic and grit that wouldn't quit. Today we're in Blooming Grove, Texas at a ranch that's become a national example of what's possible when land stewardship, grit, and generational commitment all come together. From raising crossbred cattle to restoring native grasslands, the Price family has poured decades of heart and attention into this place. And now a new chapter begins as Gary Lee, their son, moves back home to carry on and evolve that legacy. Welcome to 77 Ranch. I'm your host, Emma Kaufman, and this is RanchWorthy.
Yeah, my name's Gary Price. We're here at Blooming Grove, Texas on the 77 Ranch.
I'm Gary Lee Price. I was raised here on this ranch. Fortunate enough to get to come back here and help Mom and Dad and try to follow in Dad's footsteps here.
So talk a little bit about where we're at, just kind of the progression of the original property and the growth of your operation, what your target goals have been, whether it's the forage, the cattle, genetics, and we can get more in depth on that, but just kind of give a big overview on what you're doing.
Yeah, where we're at today, is one of 16 different properties we bought in 49 years. It's hard to believe we're on our 49th calf crop, but we are. First property we bought's on the other side, on the east side of the ranch, back in 1976. From a good old friend of mine named Lee Lowe, cowboy friend, and born in the turn of the century. Great mentor, taught me a lot. Never realizing the opportunities we'd have, to add to the ranch. A couple of years later, bought another 105 acres. And then I like to say there's just so many opportunities that you don't know are going to come around. And we've had more than we deserve, and it's been good. But the ranch today is about 2,250 deeded acres and another 800 leased acres, so about 3,000 acres we've got now.
So this was something that you first bought, or was this inherited in your family?
No, we bought it.
Okay.
We've bought every acre we had. I like to say we've done it the hard way. We like to earn it.
That's right.
But again, we've had great opportunities. Many of those properties we bought, the landowner would finance that for us, and that's helped a lot. And I was 26 years old when I bought the first property. And
wow.
Yeah. So this is a place that we're at today that was actually owned by some Austrians. They bought this property. They were scared of the Russians, and things kind of cooled down. They owned it about 25 years, put it on the market, and again, it joined us. So we put everything we could together and scratched the bottom and was able to buy it. So
was that purchasing decision based off of proximity and it connected your existing place, or was it because of some of the resources like we see over here? You've got some water, obviously a lot of trees. Was it more of the topography and the natural resources with the property, or was it just because of connectivity?
It's really all of it. I mean, when it joins you, we rotate cattle, so when you can open a gate, move cattle around, that's a big deal. But this was a good place, had a lot of water, had a bottom in it that we had cropland on when we bought it. We've since not farmed it, but put it into grass. Gary Lee actually, pardon?
What were you farming?
We never farmed it, but we had a farmer that farmed it for us, cotton, corn,
okay.
A little milo. But Gary Lee actually bought that property. I thought it was very important that he understand what making land payments is all about at an early age.
Absolutely.
Because the quicker you start, the quicker you finish.
So how old was he when he started?
I was 26.
Okay, so 26 is the magic number then.
Yeah. So that was 230 acres. Again, the place was a little bit too large for us to take it all ourselves. So he came in and bought that, and it's worked out good. So 16 different properties. It's really kind of hard to believe to put the ranch together today. It's all contiguous. It's about half of it's on the east side of 55 and about half on the west side. So it does join in the middle.
And are you from here originally?
Originally not. Originally from the DeSoto area, and spent a lot of time growing up on this place. Never thought I would be able to buy it. First set foot on it when I was 8 years old.
Wow.
With Mr. Lowe.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I spent a lot of time growing up here.
That's awesome.
And never again realized, have the opportunity. I was actually in Lubbock working for a veterinary pharmaceutical company. And tell you a little bit more about the story. Mr. Lowe had a son. He was very successful as a order buyer in Oklahoma and died suddenly of a heart attack. And so Mr. Lowe gave me a call and said, I want to sell you part of the ranch. So I knew that was the opportunity really of a lifetime, to go back. And we came back, and it's worked out pretty good.
So that was your decision of purchasing the properties when he approached you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for people who may be getting in and buying their first property
Sure.
at 26 or later years old, what would be some advice you'd have for them on whether it's just a valuation of the property and maybe they don't have that unique relationship like you had with Mr. Lowe? What would be if you could go back, what would be some of those prerequisites or even just itemized things that you'd look at before making that jump?
Yeah, I think the opportunity today is probably greater than ever. There would be others that say, well, land prices, there's no way to get in. To me, the land's not going to go anywhere. The land is here, so we're only changing ownerships. We've heard Roel Lopez at Texas A&M say that probably 30% of rural Texas will change in the next 10 years.
That's a
So
lot.
we've got new owners. Many of those have been successful in other businesses. So they're going to buy a ranch. They are looking for somebody that knows what they're doing and could guide them and to manage that ranch. So I think there's great opportunity for partnerships with those type operations, or even leasing that land from the owner. Just all sorts of things, but it's different. You don't necessarily have to own it, to ranch it. You just don't know what's going to evolve as far as opportunities down the line. I could go back and tell you a story with all 16 properties that we never dreamed, would have the opportunity to buy it.
Yeah.
I will tell you, it doesn't always come at the right time financially, but, it's probably the only time you're going to get to buy the place that joined you. So, scratch the bottom and see what you can do.
Take the lead.
Yeah.
So did you always think that you were going to be in the cattle business and being a rancher yourself, or
Yeah.
did you always think you were going to be on the sales or consultative side?
No. I was always looking for that opportunity, to be in productive ag and, ranch. And I was going out the door when he called, we're heading back. So that was the opportunity of a lifetime. But again, some of these others that we've had are just, I could tell you those stories, you just wouldn't think they would fit. We bought a place recently that joined us, had been in the family for 117 years, had 17 heirs all over the United States.
Wow.
People owned a part of it that didn't even know they did. But we had one man that was one of the heirs, and he put that deal together and made it work. But because it joined us, it's very important. This area is changing rapidly now because of development. Waxahachie, just north of us, is supposed to double in the next 5 years. So they're coming this way, and it creates a lot of challenges we have 60 neighbors now that join the ranch.
60 or 16?
60.
Wow.
So we're not all on the same page. Most of them are really good people. But you're going to have challenges with folks that don't run any cattle, or they run miniature cattle. And so that's a new challenge for us.
Talk a little bit about that, the urbanization and that encroachment of development? How has that shifted? You talked a little bit about just neighborly type of interactions, but have you seen a financial change? Have you seen, has the city said, or the county, have they implemented new rules? You know, we have this Right to Farm Act that in Texas has been underway, maybe more towards the larger development areas, but have you seen any of that here?
Yeah, I mean, we've literally had, again, the number 16 wind and solar companies from all over the world wanting to do a project on the ranch. So we're not going to do that, but we're going to listen to them and see what they have to say. That's all new. It just continues. They wanted to do a lease project in the beginning. Now they're making offers to buy the ranch. So we're not going in that direction. It's looking like what we're going to be doing. We're pretty far down the line with that is a conservation easement, and we hope to close that, you know, in the next 60 days, 90 days with TALT, Texas Agricultural Land Trust. So that really fits us. It won't stop, you know, development around you. It even won't stop eminent domain, which we're concerned about. We've got a transmission line of about almost 4 miles that runs through the middle of the ranch. That's the magnet that's drawn all of those folks to us. So again, we're going to listen. You know, if you want to buy what I've got, if it's a horse or if it's land, you know, we're going to listen. But this conservation easement really fits us for what we want to do. It'll mean that we're selling the development rights. We're doing it on about half the ranch. And it hopefully will enable us then to buy a couple of other properties that join the ranch that are important. Some of those properties, you're not looking so much at the productive side, but you're looking at maybe self-defense to keep the value of the ranch. So if you were to have a bad situation next to you, how would you prevent that?
Yeah.
And so you could buy that property, you know, and create more of a buffer on the ranch. Okay. Yeah, these genetics came from Diaz Murray up at Henrietta, and he's ranched in Montana for many years and then in Texas for 25 years, but he really believes in those Montana genetics. More of a moderate frame cow, you know, very deep, and I think they're pretty well kind of what you're looking for.
What are you looking for?
I really want a crossbred cow, so we'll probably breed these to Hereford bulls at some point if we want to get those heifers. Because we really do need in my belief, you know, a crossbred cow.
And why do you feel that way?
Well, just hybrid vigor, you know, we need that. This is working pretty good. I mean, you know, the cow needs to fit the environment, and then the calf needs to fit the market. So for many, many years, we had F1 type cattle, crossbred cows, half blood, then we had quarter blood. This is the first time, you know, that we've had no Brahman influence at all.
Really?
Not sure we're going to be able to get along with it.
Okay. Just the heat?
The heat and the humidity. Yeah. So we'll see, but, you know, probably we'll end up with a crossbred cow, half Hereford, half Angus. You know, and those calves are going to be black, or they'll be black baldies. We wean all of our calves, you know, we'll precondition those, and for the last 8 or 10 years, we've gone to Nebraska to a feed yard with them, sell them to a feed yard.
Okay, so you're not retaining ownership through, you're just,
no.
Okay.
So they're all naturals. They fit his program up there, and they'll end up going to Nyman Ranch in California usually, or Chipotle.
For people who don't know what an all-natural program is, can you describe that?
Sure. Yeah, all natural just means no antibiotics. It doesn't mean we don't we don't treat the cattle when they're sick. We obviously do, but we just don't put those cattle in the program. But all natural just means no hormones and no antibiotics.
What made you decide to go that route?
Premiums. Yeah, the premiums are good, and they've grown through the years. There was a time when there wasn't a lot of separation, but there's even more now. So the claims we put on the cattle are very, very important. We can give them the age of the cattle. We can give them the breed of the cattle. We can give them what they've been vaccinated with, and they're looking for predictability on their end. And, you know, we're selling transparency. That's what we're selling, so we have nothing to hide. And that's worked really good for them. And in fact, we've never met the man that's bought these cattle for 8 or 10 years. Hoping to meet him this summer, go up there in Nebraska. But
so when you're weaning, are you trying to hit them at a target weight when you're weaning them, or what does that process look like for y'all?
Well, like these heifers, we know these calves need to come off of them, and let them heal back a little bit. We're not fall calving, but occasionally we're going to buy some fall calving cattle, and we've got to get them, back in the program of spring calving. Weaning, very flexible. We used to sell, if you go back 40 years ago, we were selling fat calves off of the cow because we had Newhoff in Dallas, a packer that killed heifers weighing 500. So the industry's completely changed. We have the ability now, to wean those calves, precondition them, and add value to them. So weight-wise, age-wise, depending on what's going on. If we're really dry, we might wean early, 7 months. But if the cow, she's either bred back or she isn't. And if she's in good shape and the grass is pretty good, then we'll go 8 or 9 months with them. And so start calving in the spring, late January, calve through March, part of April, tighten it as much as we can. But then we'll wean in October, November.
Okay.
So we stock very conservatively, and of course we're redoing a lot of these pastures, that were in cotton fields. So those are planted. We don't get full grazing ability with those. We'll flash graze them or whatever. But flexibility and not painting yourself back into a corner is very important.
Yeah.
And so I'd rather be understocked than overstocked. You're looking really not for maximum production. We're looking for optimum. What this ranch will run over time, sustainably for many years, that's kind of, with all the changes in the weather, that's a number. So that's kind of what we're looking for. Where's that balance? We've gotten to where we don't have to feed any hay to the cow herd. Have not fed any protein the last few years to the cow herd. So didn't think we could get there because, we're in a 35-inch rainfall here. But we really can. This grass will cure out, and most of the ranch is all native grass. So I believe in, there's a lot to be said about cattle behavior. I don't want them looking to me, for a handout. I want them, to go and hustle. And you give her 4 good feet and a set of teeth, they can do a lot. This pasture we're in, and several we'll see a little later, have been rotated, we know, for about 70 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Let me put that in your hand and tell me if there's some moisture in there. It's cool, right? So shading the ground's important. Letting those cattle tromp in a certain amount of litter, because it's, it's the carbon, it's the litter that's going to hold the moisture. Water is, and if you could boil all this down to one thing, water is the lifeblood of the ranch. I can't make it rain, so concentrate everything we do on trying to keep water. Get through the drought, get through to the next rain event. That's pretty well, centers what we try to do with all of our management. And well, there you go. Maybe a little later, right? A little tart. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll find you a better.
Oh, heck yeah.
So earlier, Dad was talking about the importance of forbs and some of these weeds and things like what you're eating now. We've seen a lot more. We used to not have any deer. We've got a lot of deer now, and the wildlife really benefit from those forbs too, and not just having a monoculture diet. We've got a lot of neighbors that are strictly Bermuda grass, and they have no wildlife other than fire ants. And
34-acre lake with some others over there. We've got stocked with Florida bass.
So if you see that red truck come by a few more times, just disregard.
you got an open invitation.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So no fertilizer. We've bought no fertilizer for probably 35 years, maybe 40.
Really?
Yeah.
And talk about what kind of forage you got out here for.
The tall native grass is kind of orange colored, is a little blue stem. There's some ragweed. Looks like this is going to be a pretty good year for ragweed, which means, you know, we probably got the rains at the right time to bring up those seeds. It doesn't mean you're necessarily doing anything wrong, but all of these things are seasonal.
Bust out the Allegra.
The what?
Bust out the Allegra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you can see there's a basket flower coming in there. So we want some diversity. That's a good sign. We're not trying to get rid of all the weeds. Again, we're just learning, you know, the value of those. If we were to overgraze this, you're going to get in a lot of different weeds. Burning always comes up. We have burned a little in the past. We think it's probably a good tool. I wish we could burn more, but because of all the development around us and the liability,
Really?
we just really can't burn as much as we'd like. If we could burn, we wouldn't have all of that brush encroachment there.
Yeah.
We could run a fire through there. We've got plenty of fuel. You know, we're going to set it back. But, you know, until the liability issue gets worked out, we're just not going to be able to do that.
And is that coming from your insurance? Is that coming from the county? Where?
No, it would be just if we had a wildfire got out.
Yeah.
You know, we burned up a neighbor's house, which is not just the insurance. I mean, we don't want to do that.
Okay.
Or we burned up 1,000 acres of fence. You know, we don't want to do that.
Okay. So that's a concern coming from you, not someone
Yes.
telling you, okay.
Well, we know.
We've had a few on us that some neighbors started too. We've been on the other end of that. And then obviously you can have some control burns that get a little out of control and they burn more than you wanted and eat up a, you know, calf crop trying to build fence, trying to pay for a new fence. But yeah, it's something that we recognize is very valuable. And earlier we were looking at some Alamo switch where those cattle were by the tank, and that draw down there, we did several burns in the early 2000s, and it really helped that Alamo switch to come back good. It can get a little bit rank where it needs some pressure with some fire or grazing. But yeah, it's a risk. Fire's always a risk, you know, and we don't want to have any disasters. Dad will probably tell you this story, but there's no oil production in this area.
Okay.
You have to go 15 miles in just about every direction before there's a producing well. A company contacted us and wanted to drill a well right up here on this hill in 1984. Contacted Dad. But I remember we had pipe stacked right in here, and this was very short grass, a lot of erosion. That was early on in our ownership of the pasture, and obviously they didn't make a well. But I remember the way that looked then. There was a lot of erosion in here and short grass, mainly like KR blue stem invasive stuff. This is completely different than it looked then. Again, I've been gone for 22 years or 27 years, including college. So there's a lot of this ranch that looks completely different to me, and so yeah, this area is a real testament to what native grasses and rotational grazing can do.
Not to be cute and cuddly, but we're just trying to do that because it made sense. So the impact of the cow is so important. I like to say if we didn't have the cow, we'd be trying to invent her. She's that important, you know, to the ecology that's here. And what else do we provide if we manage it like this? We provide ecosystem services. So we're scrubbing the air right here. The wind's out of the south. It's headed up to DFW. There's 7.5 million people there. So we're scrubbing their air, cleaning their air, taking the carbon dioxide out of the air, putting it in the soil, good for the production of more grass with holding more water with carbon and all of that.
You're basically scrubbing the water too, filtering it before it gets there.
Yeah, so when we get more water than we want, because we've created a sponge. That's really what we're trying to do with the ranch. Make it a sponge, put as much water in those plants as possible, let them use what they want, the rest will go to the aquifer. recharges that aquifer. That's probably going to be the next source of water for all the urban folks, is drilling wells and taking it out of the aquifer. What else do we provide? Well, we're giving the deer pretty good habitat, so they're coming back here. They weren't here since the Indians, so that's a good thing. That rewards those in the urban areas that want time to hunt or fish. They can come here. When we stopped the hunting lease that we've had for 30 years, you just wouldn't believe the emails that I got that was my last fishing trip with my dad before he died. That was my last hunt with my girls before they went to college. And so those are things that are kind of intangibles. How do you measure the value of that? So if we were to chop up land, which a lot of it's going on around here, it not only affects us, but it affects really everybody. So those ecosystem services and then the opportunity for recreation is very, very valuable.
I appreciate things, the stories that you're telling me. There's a reoccurring circumstance here is that you're taking the time and energy and effort to educate those who, quite frankly, have no concept of what food and fiber production is doing here, specifically in the United States, and then even more specifically here in Texas. So that education also is a two-way street, right? You have to have companies and corporations actually interested in wanting to learn and understand what you're doing. Have you seen that shift of a mindset from 49 years ago to today, where you see, again, to your point earlier, a lot of carbon conversations, but that investment in educating themselves?
Well, absolutely. Like I said, I think this is the most opportune time ever in agriculture. Corporations are looking at us. It started because of climate issues, their carbon footprint. They're all needing to lower that. We're going to be a part of that. It's not, the total fix is not on the land, but it's part of that. So they're looking at us. We have the opportunity to tell that story. We've met people with J.P. Morgan at recent ranch tours. They were out here then again on the roundtable tour. So that's how you pull them in to see, and many times they said, well, we didn't know it was like this. We didn't know you could have this. We thought it was a trade-off, but it's not. Welcome people to come out, show them what we're doing. We're transparent. That's what we sell with our cattle. We're transparent about everything we do. And we have an obligation. We're only 1% now in agriculture to the other 98 or 9%
that we have to feed.
Yeah, we need to tell them the story, and we have a good story to tell.
But we also have an obligation, I think, to our younger kids. We have hosted many tours on the ranch with elementary kids, and we've had the science teachers say they learned so much and they were so excited. And so just being able to educate them a little bit, and we're just about 2 miles away
from the school. We actually drove right by the elementary school where she taught on the way here. Lands, learning across new dimensions in science.
Learning across new dimensions in science. And we targeted 4th and 5th graders. And through Texas Wildlife Association, I'm a director, of one of many. They helped us, and they had teachers come down and help, and it was really wonderful.
We used to tell them that it takes about 1,000 years to build an inch of topsoil in there. Wow. And whoever could guess closest to that, we'd let them ride the horse or whatever. But you never know what kid there it might turn on. And I tell them the story. I have a deed that says that I own it. It's a piece of paper. It gives me certain rights and privileges for my lifetime, hopefully his as well. But then at some point our family will go away. And you could be the manager, you could be the owner. And me, how could I do that? Because again, you never know the twists and turns, in the future. And you could own this ranch someday. Look
at you, you're first generation.
Yeah. So they how they look at that differently when they are on the ground instead of in a classroom, only in the classroom looking at a book.
Sometimes the classroom doesn't really challenge you enough, and some of those kids, they just need something a little more invigorating.
And getting outside and just, seeing grass and things they've never seen before.
I remember they used to bring the water filtration demos. I can't remember exactly what you call them, but where you
Rainfall simulators.
Rainfall simulators, yeah. And those kids, you just kind of see their faces light up like, oh, I get it now.
It gets really quiet. They're talking. It's, usually at our lunchtime we'll be underneath some big trees and have a picnic lunch. And then we'll have a rainfall simulator. And they're still kind of chattering. And then as that water starts percolating, they get real quiet because it's fascinating. Yeah.
You're now back home. A lot's changed since when you first left. Talk about from college where you went and then how and why you're now back in Blooming Grove.
Well, I left for college. Spent 4.5 years at A&M. Graduated with a degree in animal science, like you, and did an internship with the Brown Ranch, and that was great. And then went to work managing a ranch in northern Dickens County, and was there for a little over 9 years. Then a job came available, the Wolf Creek camp job at the Matadors. Worked there for 1.5 years, and took the job at Prairie Groves in North Jacksboro, between Jacksboro and Wichita Falls, a little town called Antelope. And we ran cattle in Archer, Jack, and Clay counties there. And that's where I've been for the last 10 years. But, we were talking earlier, like when I left home for college, we really never thought that me being able to be a part of this ranch full time was a reality. It was kind of a thought, a dream, but so basically, like Dad, I started buying land in my early or mid 20s and making payments on those two places. And as I got a little closer to home, got a little older, as we were getting this ranch kind of put together, it looked like maybe more of a reality. And then we're putting the ranch into a conservation easement. We've been working on that for a little over 3 years with Texas Ag Land Trust. And that's becoming a lot more of a reality. We plan to close hopefully this summer on that. But so financially, we're hoping to be that'll put us in a better position to try and support all of us here. And so that's going to be hard to fill Dad's shoes, but hopefully we can work through that process and eventually I guess I'll be trying to run this place. And so that's kind of what's led me here. A lot of work and land payments, I guess. And but hopefully we're going to start to kind of enjoy a lot of the rewards from the hard work.
Do you feel that your experience outside of your family's place has and is going to be a benefit to you as you now take over? Absolutely, yeah. It's been great to go work for several really good ranches, be around those guys, older guys that taught me a heck of a lot. And that is going to be irreplaceable. That experience will be irreplaceable. Every ranch is different. This part of the world is a lot different from where I work, but there's a lot of things that are the same too.
cattle, they kind of handle in a lot of ways the same, no matter where you're at. There's differences, but there's a lot of things that are the same. But absolutely, the experience that I took from here, Dad gave me a basic knowledge of range management and, cattle and horses and taking care of them. That helped prepare me, but there were a lot of lessons to be learned out there. And a lot of those were very hard lessons, but I think absolutely that experience will help me here. And so that's where we're at right now, and we're right at the beginning of that process. I literally moved about 3 weeks ago, and there's a very good man that's taken my place at Prairie Grove. He worked for us for 8 years before day working, and then he worked for us full time for a while, and then he's going to be taking over, and he's going to do a really good job up there. And that was really important to me. There were several times it would have been tempting to try and come back here, but the timing wasn't always right. But we've got the right guy up there, and conditions are good. But they've had 20 inches of rain in the month of April, and which is unheard of. But so everything seems to be kind of coming together.
Yeah. And so as someone who went to college, grew up on this place, went to uni, then went off to get outside experience and now is coming back around, what would be some advice you would have for people who may be following in similar footsteps?
The Lord gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You're supposed to do twice as much listening. And I've had several older guys that taught me the best thing you can do is to pay attention, listen. So I know when you're young, I know when I first went out there, I kind of, I thought that I was as prepared as I could be. I found out real quick that I wasn't. And
how's that song goes? I'm not as smart as I once was.
Yeah, right. And not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was, something like that. So listen, pay attention, and those older people, they got that way for a reason, and they're still at that ranch for a reason. They know what they're doing, and listen to them. And other than that, it's going to be a lot of hard work, and there comes Dad. So, but yeah, it's hard work. Keep your nose clean, do what's right, and pay attention to the older guys. And obviously, don't ever think you're done learning. I had that college degree, but as you've probably found, there's places where it means absolutely nothing. But yet it does mean something, because deep down inside what it took to get that degree. It wasn't about the things you learned in class, but it took a certain amount of try to get that. And that you can use in your own mind to know that I can do this. I've been through harder stuff. I can set goals and achieve those goals. And but don't think because you've got that degree that you've got it made. Don't ever stop learning. You never stop learning.
I love that. So now that, again, you're starting to come back, you just recently moved back, what are the goals and ambitions that you have for this place?
Well, I think there's obviously, just looking around here, I could see that lake that's north of here, clear as a bell, from this house. You can't see it at all. There's a lot more brush on this ranch, and so to me that's a goal. We've got to do something about the encroaching brush. It's not just on this ranch, but the state of Texas as a whole is brushier than it used to be. Brush is a huge problem. So that I'd like to maybe work on some things just as far as operational, the logistics of the ranch, getting the cattle work done, some efficiencies, some things like that. I feel like we might could kind of work on, build on. The genetics of the cow herd, I think we're really headed in the right direction there, but there's work to do there. Those are just a few things, but we've got the ranch that is put together now. And that's been the main goal for many, many years, is putting it together. Now we've got the canvas, we just got to go to painting. And so I'm excited about that part of it. We're ready to start ranching now. And but again, it's going to be very hard following in Dad's footprints here. He casts a pretty big shadow here.
Well, we're excited to see what you end up doing and where you end up heading, and really appreciate your time today.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Really glad to have y'all here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
What a privilege it has been to walk through the pastures and hear the story of 77 Ranch, a place where conservation and cattle can coexist together by design. From Gary's first land purchase at the age of 26 to Sue's steadfast presence behind the scenes, and now Gary Lee steps forward to take the torch and is passed down not just from generation, but from a mindset to a movement. If you have a dream on your heart and you're sitting on the idea of starting your own operation, let this be a reminder that you don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to start. Thanks for being here, and until next time, I'm your host, Emma Kaufman, and this is RanchWorthy.